I've been packing boxes for the past few days, moving out of my parents' place and into my own. Admittedly, there wasn't a ton to do. I'm trying to furnish a whole apartment with a bedroom's worth of stuff here. It's strange how it can seem like you own so many things until you move into a larger space. Suddenly, all the things that have spent years next to each other have a whole new open area to spread across. There was one box, though, that was nearly forgotten because it wasn't a newly packed box. It was a box packed by my parents years ago. The one almost everyone has and has to make a decision at some point whether or not to keep it. The box of your childhood things. If my dad hadn't remembered it, it would have sat up in the attic for another few years. I wonder what we would have thought of as kids, peering into the future, knowing that all of our favorite things end up collecting dust and only ever thought about when you move house. It's a curious thought. I took the box to my new apartment and began sorting through it. I decided to get it out of the way first, as it was the only box where I wasn't sure of the contents. I didn't know how much I'd be keeping, throwing away, or donating. Putting everything into 3 piles was difficult and emotional, but I was able to make the decision for most things. To say it opened a gateway back into my childhood would be wrong, as it didn't. A gateway would imply that I would walk through and live it again. What it provided, though, was a window. One which I could only look through, and never open. But what a beautiful, crystal clear window it provided. Sorting through that box was one of my happiest moments in the past few years. Until I got to the end. Perhaps the reason I'm focusing so much on happiness is that I'm afraid to continue this story. The final item in the box was a diary. My diary. It was pink and shiny. Cliché, but all the childhood TV shows I watched had this sort of thing in it, so that's what I wanted as a kid. I never stuck to many things in my childhood, and this was no different. I used it for about half a year, and even then I missed probably about half the days, so even after 6 months I would have only had about 100 entries. I sat there and read every single one, each dated about 10 years ago, and each one making me happier. But the smile dropped from my face when the dates crossed a threshold of impossibility. 2 years ago. Dear Diary, I totally forgot about this. My dad got a new job recently and had to store some of his old work stuff in the attic. I helped and found this while I was up there. Reading through the old entries was enchanting, to say the least. Maybe I'll come back sometimes and write more. Alicia. My handwriting. My name. But I hadn't been up here 2 years ago. And my dad didn't get a new job 2 years ago either. It didn't make sense. I wasn't exactly scared at that point, I just didn't know what to think. I was confused, so I continued to read. 1 year ago. Dear Diary. This again. Although I don't remember writing anything last year. How strange. It was still cool to read through all of this, though. I just moved out and found this box full of old stuff. Good job my dad reminded me about it. I'm hoping that living alone isn't as scary as it seems. I suppose time will tell. Future me, you got this. Alicia. How could this be dated a year ago? This all happened, but it happened in the same day as I had read it. And I certainly never wrote it. 6 months ago. I'm not doing this diary shit. What the fuck is this? I've never had a diary in my entire life. How does this thing know everything that has happened to me as a kid? At this point, I started to freak out. This entry wasn't like the others. It wasn't just confusing for me, but clearly whoever wrote it was just as confused and concerned. Except they still seemed to think they're me. And the next one changed that. 4 months ago. How odd. This entire journal perfectly describes my life. Up until a couple years ago. I'm moving out in a few months and I haven't already moved out. But all the entries as a child perfectly mimic my life. Except for one crucial detail. My name is Rebecca. How on earth could this be? The next one was the worst. 2 months ago. Dear Diary. Someone just broke in. And I'm hiding in the attic. I found my childhood diary. I've called the police, but I'm scared. I just need to take my mind away from this. The police wanted me to stay on the phone, but I was afraid of making noise. I can hear them downstairs. I hope I get to read this again soon. Writing this makes me feel like I'm gonna be okay. It turns into a memory and not a final day. I wish I had time to read past entries, but I don't. I promise I will soon. I just hope that I manage to. The entry ended there, and it's covered in dry blood. At this point, I was physically shaking, but I feel like I had the duty to continue this, and so I did. I took out a pen and wrote, "Dear Diary, I don't know what this thing is. Will I remember writing this? What kind of power this book has is beyond me. But whatever's going on, I don't like it. I died? I moved out a year ago? My dad got a new job 2 years ago? My name is Rebecca? None of this makes any sense." My pen ran out of ink, so I went looking for another one. I intended to finish the entry, but when I returned, the journal was gone. I wonder where it went.